Hi, welcome to Bonita's Kitchen and thank you for joining us. What I'm going to be making for you today is meringue bowls with a rhubarb and a berry filling. So if you worked with making meringue before, you know it's a difficult process, but I'm going to show you how to do it that it's going to be easy and it's going to work out nice and perfect. So let's get going. So what we're going to start with first is making our rhubarb and berry sauce. This is a jam, pretty much the same as a jam, but we're using cornstarch in with it. You could use whatever berries you got in season or whatever berries you got access to or frozen. I'm using a few strips of rhubarb, and they were freshly picked and stored in my fridge from my mom's garden. Some strawberries. I'm not going to give you any amount because you could make as much or less as you want to make. I got some frozen raspberries here that I picked at my sister's garden last fall. I got some blueberries. We're going to be using orange zest, brown sugar and cornstarch. So let's get putting it into our bowl. Okay, so the rhubarb and strawberries, blueberries I'm going to pour on in, all been cut and peeled. My frozen raspberries, and we're going to be putting in 1/4 cup of brown sugar. We're going to be putting in a teaspoonful of orange and orange zest. So pretty much what I'm going to do is take the chunk, put it all into it. We're going to be using a teaspoonful of cornstarch and 1/4 cup of cold water. So everything now is in the saucepan. What you're going to do is just lightly stir it around. You're going to put a lid on it, put it on sort of a low to medium boil for about 5 minutes or so, and then we'll get back to it. So what we'll do now is start on making our meringue. So while our berry sauce, rhubarb and berry sauce is boiling, I'll show you the ingredients for this, and then we'll get whipping up the meringue. So there's 3 large eggs, and they're at room temperature, so you can put them out for about a half an hour or an hour before you're going to use them. We got a teaspoonful of vanilla, we got a tablespoonful of or a teaspoonful of vinegar, we got a tablespoonful of cornstarch, and 3/4 cup of confectionary sugar. So let's get cracking our eggs and separating the whites and the yolk. Okay, so what we'll do is just crack open our first egg, and all I do is just rotate it back and forth like this until the white is out. You may have another method, and if you want to, you can share that method with us. This is the way that I've always, I guess it's easy for me to do it this way. Just shimmy it back and forth into the shells, and then they're separated. So do it with the 3rd egg, and then make sure there's no shells or yolk inside of the white. Okay, so now that we got our egg whites ready to go, I got my yolks put in the fridge to make a little something for myself later. The shells, I'm going to clean them up, crunch them, put them in my garden, and that helps your garden as well as any of insects that don't like to walk over it. So it protects your garden as a compost. So let's get started. I want to check on my berry sauce. So let's get going. So our rhubarb and berry sauce is coming along lovely. As you can see, it's starting to thicken. We'll be taking the zest out when it's all finished and let it cool down. And then you can bottle this in your mason jar and have it for anything. But this is just about done, a couple of more minutes. So let's get back to our meringue. Okay, now I got my blender ready. You need an high-speed blender for this one. If you're doing it by hand, it might take a little bit longer, but I have done it that way before. So all I'm going to do now is blend this on high speed until it gives stiff peaks. So let's get going. Now this is almost ready to stop. I'm just going to let it blend for just a little bit longer, and just to give it a little bit more stiffness to this meringue, and turn off my berry sauce, and I'll tell you what's next. Alright, so that's that much done. I've turned off the berry sauce like I was saying. This is done, ready to cool down, because you don't want to put this over hot. I always make it the night before I need to use it, so it's nice and cool and kept in the fridge, and I'll show you what that looks like as well as pouring this into a mason jar. So let's get going on the meringue and adding in the next ingredient. Okay, so I'm going to take out the orange and the orange zest. We're going to be pouring now the sauce, the berry sauce, rhubarb and berry sauce, into this mason jar. And any time that you bottle, this is not like a bottling that you would put away and store for months and months. This is to be used fairly quick, but you can keep it in your fridge. And then before you put the lid on, wipe around the sides so that it'll seal nice. So I'm just wiping around the rim, and then I'm going to seal the top on. So this is going to stay like this until it's room temperature, and then I'll store it in my fridge after. Okay, so back to the meringue. We're going to be adding in now the confectionary sugar, which is the powdered icing sugar, a little bit at a time into the meringue that's already been beaten and soft peaks. So let's get going on that. So I'm going to be taking the 1 tablespoonful of the cornstarch and mixing in with the confectionery sugar, just tossing it around lightly like this. And we're going to be adding in about a tablespoonful at a time of the confectionery sugar and the cornstarch into the already beaten egg whites, and mix this around gradually like that until it's all incorporated. So I'm going to continue blending this together to get all the powder into it. So that's all of the confectionery sugar and the cornstarch mixed together into the egg whites. Now you're going to mix in your teaspoonful of vanilla, mix that around gradually, and then a tablespoonful of vinegar, and then blend it together. Okay, so that's done. So I'm just going to bring this down from the sides like this, and now we're going to prepare our cookie sheet with some parchment paper, and I'll show you what's next. Okay, so now that we got our meringue mixture ready, we're going to take small little bits of it and put on each side of our cookie sheet to keep the parchment paper down, because we don't want it moving around to kind of change the shape, or, you know, with the meringue on top. We want for it to all stay in place. So like this. Okay, so with a spatula, you're going to take out equal dollops of the meringue. This cookie sheet takes 6, and this mixture is 6. So it works out good. If you want more, you can double this recipe. So we're just going to put the dollops down first. And then I'll show you how to shape it into a bowl. Okay, so after you got your 6 molds like this, and you're going to take a spoon then, and then you're going to gradually put a little hole in the center like this, and pulling out on the meringue. Not touching. If you can keep it separated like this, the parchment paper will keep it from burning, and it'll keep it from sticking to your pan. So basically you're going to continue doing that until all 6 is shaped into a bowl. And you do the same with the last one. So this is pretty simple, and meringue is so difficult to work with. I mean, actually had to play around with meringue for many years before I can even put it over a meringue pie or a lemon meringue pie. But this dessert is so delicate and nice. If you got family coming in town or guests, they're going to love it. So that's all you need to do. So this is a type of dessert. If you're going to have company, you want to make it the day before so that you got everything prepared, because it is a little time consuming but not a lot. You make the berry sauce, rhubarb and berry sauce. If you don't like rhubarb, just do all berry sauce. That got to cool down and become condensed and thick. The meringue got to go into a 250-degree oven. It's going to bake, and that's a preheated oven. It's got to bake for a half an hour with your timer exactly in half an hour. Then when it rings, turn off the oven, put the timer on again for an hour and a half with the oven off. And this got to stay in your oven until it cools. You can't open the door, because if you open the door, it'll collapse. And the reason for that is meringue, it starts to rise, just have that little bit of delicateness puffed up a bit. You don't want for that to sink. So that's a half an hour in the oven on 250 degrees. When the timer goes off, you'll turn it off, put it on for an hour and a half, the timer, with the oven off, and keeping it in there until it cools. And then you would take it out. And then I'll show you what you would do when you take it out. Welcome back to Bonita's Kitchen. I'm going to say our meringue bowls are done, but these were made in advance. I still got the other ones that I'm going to be putting in the oven very shortly. I had also mixed up some whipped cream with some confectionery sugar, and I've made this on lots of our videos before. I will share that recipe with you, but that's all that is. It's just a whipped cream. This is the berry sauce that I made in advance, and I stored in the fridge. So this is what the meringue looks like. The bottoms, you'd see, is a nice golden brown, and that was in there for a half an hour baking on a 250-degree heat, and then the temperature turned off, but the timer put back on again for an hour and a half, and just walk away and forget about it. Let it cool down in your oven, then take it out after it's cool. Make it the night before. Alright, so let's fill these delicious meringue bowls up, and I'll show you what they look like. Pretty much when your rhubarb and berry sauce is cooled, this is what it's going to look like. It's got that nice look to it. It's not too thick, and it's just so creamy. So you just pour it on into your bowls. I'm going to pour one into this. Now put as much as you want in there, doesn't matter. Top it with a little bit of whipped cream, and then you'll just top it with your little pieces of your fresh fruit. You got some rhubarb cut up. That's if you're using rhubarb. This is a delicious recipe with rhubarb in it. You just put it on top like this, and that's all you need to do. Then this dessert is ready to serve. So this is how, I'm going to say, quick and easy it is to make this recipe. I know there's a bit of time behind it, but just look how delicious this looks. I would serve this to anyone, and it's so tasty. I'm going to have a little taste of the dessert now, and then I'm going to hope that you're going to be making yours pretty soon. Okay, so I'm just going to take off a little taste there now. And like you said, you can take it up in your hand and eat it, or just with the spoon, but it's so nice. The meringue on the bottom is soft and chewy, and then the taste of the different layers with the berry sauce and the whipped cream, delicious. So I hope this recipe is interesting for you today, and that you would like to go and make it. If so, I have this recipe and many more on Bonita's Kitchen. You can go to my YouTube channel. Up at the top right hand corner is free subscribe. Hit the link and it'll prompt you to what you need to do. And if you want to see more details on each recipe, you can visit my website at www.bonitaskitchen.com, and I got a spreadsheet of pictures on each recipe showing you step by step, as well as this video. You can also visit me on my Facebook page or send me a tweet on Twitter. So thank you for joining me once again today for Bonita's Kitchen, from my kitchen to yours. You have a wonderful day.